Yo, what's going on everybody, Swagkage here, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about Izanagi, one of the two most powerful genjutsu given to users of the Sharingan. I briefly touched on this genjutsu back when I made my Sharingan video almost a year ago, but I didn't come anywhere close to doing a full breakdown of it. If you can't tell already, that's what I'm going to be doing in this video, so let's go ahead and get started. Izanagi made its first appearance in chapter 476 of the Naruto manga during Sasuke's battle with Danzo at the Swagkage summit. Just like with the base Sharingan, the first person we saw using Izanagi was a non-Uchiha, Danzo Shimura in this case. Now before I get ahead of myself, let me just go ahead and start breaking down the basics of this technique. Unlike a lot of the techniques I've talked about before on this channel, Izanagi's name doesn't translate directly into anything in English. Instead, like many of the techniques exclusive to the Sharingan, Izanagi is named after a Shinto god. As for its in-universe roots, Izanagi is a genjutsu derived from the creation of all things technique, a yin-yang release ninjutsu used by the Sage of Six Paths for many different things, most notably to split the 10 tails into the 9-tailed beasts. This video isn't about that jutsu, so I won't spend a whole lot of time talking about it here, but for the purposes of this video, let me just say that the primary uses for creation of all things, or Banbatsu Sozo no Jutsu, are to create form out of nothing and to breathe life into that form. Consider Izanagi a much less large-scale, more self-contained version of this jutsu, or rather, at the very least, a jutsu inspired by creation of all things. I summarized it in my Sharingan video by saying that
Izanagi is a genjutsu technique that is cast on the user instead of an enemy, and it effectively bridges the gap between reality and illusion while it is active. It gives the user a degree of control over themselves that they would only be able to manage within a genjutsu without actually trapping them in one. Their body remains physically real, but all injuries that they sustain do not. When it first debuted in chapter 476, Danzo repeatedly used it to negate otherwise fatal blows during his battle with Sasuke, effectively putting him in a state of temporary immortality. Put most simply, the primary use for Izanagi is to negate death by rewriting a critical injury or fatal blow as nothing more than an illusion, allowing the user to reappear completely unscathed. When Izanagi was first revealed, it was said that only someone with the DNA of both the Senju and the Uchiha could pull off the genjutsu, but according to Itachi, in the past there were plenty of Uchiha capable of using the technique, so Regardless, the technique is incredibly powerful and can even be set to go off at a particular time or under certain conditions, as seen when Madara set it to go off after his death, allowing him to revive himself after his death at the hands of Hashirama.
No, obviously that wasn't a full breakdown of the jutsu, so let me go ahead and start elaborating on everything that I mentioned in that video point by point here. One of the first and most peculiar things about Izanagi that stands out quite a bit is the fact that it is a genjutsu cast on oneself as opposed to another person, and while I'm sure there are plenty of other genjutsu that work well when doing this, I think Izanagi is the one with the most direct effects. See, unlike every other genjutsu, Izanagi has tangible, physical effects on the real outside world, and this is because it allows its user to selectively turn certain events into parts of a genjutsu as if they never happened at all. This effectively puts a person into a state of temporary invincibility, as they can simply rewrite any instances in a battle that are not favorable to them as if they didn't happen in the first place. This is because of the technique's supposed relationship with creation of all things, though what aspects are carried over from that technique into this one are never specified. After Izanagi is activated, a person remains under its effects for 60 seconds until the technique finally comes to an end, and during this time, the user can make unlimited use of their ability to nullify any injuries they sustain, meaning that they are completely immortal for these 60 seconds. The actual ability to manipulate reality only lasts for the briefest of moments, just fractions of a second, but since a person can use it an unlimited amount of times during these 60 seconds, it may as well last indefinitely. Now, this is a really overpowered jutsu, so it comes with a pretty high price, and that is the permanent blindness of the eye that uses it. 100% of the time, when somebody uses their Sharingan to cast Izanagi, that Sharingan will go blind once the technique's 60-second duration comes to an end. Like, forever. There's no saving it. Not even implanting the Sharingan of a close family member will restore the eye's vision. The only way to return the abilities of a Sharingan that's used Izanagi back to it is to evolve it into a Rinnegan, but I've already explained how difficult that is in my Rinnegan video, so for all intents and purposes, Izanagi use results in blindness. As a result, it's only used on very rare occasions, typically in the most dire life or death situations ever, where a person is completely certain that they are going to die if they don't throw away the vision of their Sharingan. It has been used in other ways before, but I'll get to explaining those in a bit. Now, originally, there was another hurdle that a person had to jump over before they could use Izanagi, and that was to acquire both a Sharingan and Senju DNA, both of which were stated to be requirements for using Izanagi, before it was later elaborated that actually you don't need the DNA of the Senju clan, because there were a whole bunch of Uchiha in the past who abused Izanagi, and Izanami had to be created to punish them. The Sharingan and Senju DNA were both needed for the sake of obtaining the power of the Sage of Six Paths, which is composed of both Uchiha and Senju chakra, and the chakra of the Sage of Six Paths was necessary for the manipulation of reality, but it was later established that the Sharingan on its own has a piece of the Sage of Six Paths chakra, so I guess that's how it works. It's not really much of a limit anymore. The theory that most people are working with is that Senju DNA completes the technique and makes it a lot more versatile and a lot more reliable. Without the DNA of the Senju clan, a user of Izanagi will supposedly not remain under the technique's effects for a full minute, and the effects of the ability will be cut down to a much shorter, unspecified amount of time. This is further supported by the fact that Obito's Izanagi was even better than Danzo's was, as its effects lasted even longer than just 1 minute, the full length of Conan's 10-minute paper bomb explosion, as a matter of fact, and he was able to perform it without any hand seals, unlike Danzo. All thanks to the fact that, unlike Danzo, he had full control over Hashirama's DNA. Speaking of Danzo, there are 2 other ways that Izanagi can be used, aside from directly casting it from one's eye socket, anyway. Danzo was able to plant 10 Sharingan in his arm, and I have no idea if this allowed him to see out of all of his armholes, but regardless, he was able to use Izanagi from each of these Sharingan. I imagine that he had extra reserves of Sharingan stowed away somewhere thanks to the annihilation of the Uchiha clan, so every time he used one Sharingan, he was able to replace it with another one, and this allowed Danzo to use Izanagi for up to 10 minutes at a time, possibly 11 minutes if he decided to cast it from Shisui's eye, which he had implanted in his right eye socket. Now, as I mentioned at the end of the Izanagi segment of the Sharingan video, obviously it's possible to transcribe Izanagi inside of a Sharingan the same way that Itachi sealed Amaterasu in Sasuke's Sharingan before his meeting with Obito. This practically ensures the use of Izanagi to save a person's life if they ever enter a situation that entails certain death, as seen when Hashirama pretty much completely killed Madara, and Madara just didn't die since Izanagi was sealed inside of his left eye, and he just used it to rewrite his death so that it didn't happen. Pretty cool stuff. I expected this video to be longer, but that's actually all there is to say about Izanagi, so this is where I'm gonna go ahead and end the video off. As always, if you guys have any video topics you want me to cover in the future, leave them in the comments below, and I'll get to any that I like enough. Trust me, I promise, I just have a whole lot of stuff on my log to get through right now. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and maybe subscribe if you're new to the channel. And if you really love me, you can check the description for the links to my Twitter and Patreon accounts. But most importantly, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of the day. Sorry about the mic quality in this episode, by the way. My mic is dying on me, and I definitely did not have enough time to go grab a new one, but I didn't want to just skip uploading this weekend. So don't worry, I'm going to have this mic quality issue fixed in the future. But until my next few videos, I'll talk to you guys later. Swagkage out. Bye.